Hey, hi, hello, Gamerinos. It is I, Jonii, famous content farmer. You may or may not be able to tell that I'm not working off a script today, and that's because this video is a little different. It's a celebration of the fact that I've recently hit 1,000 subscribers. Thank you, by the way. I never expected to get this far when I started the channel, honestly. And knowing that there are that many people that have enjoyed my content over the last almost 2 years at this point is really, really cool. I figured, since there are that many people that I would guess somewhat value my opinion, it would be really fun to try a Q&A video. So I retreated to Twitter and my newly obtained community tab. Thank you very much, everyone. And I asked you what you want to ask me, and now I'm going to answer what you want answered by me, Jonii. I have looked at these questions a bit before recording this, but I haven't necessarily come up with the most concrete answers or explanations, so things might be a little rambly, but I'll edit it down. I figured it would be most fun to try this in a more casual format since, you know, this video's for my subs, my guys, my friends, my friendarinos. With that said, I think I will start with the Twitter questions. Marson87326024 asks, favorite game console based on game library for it. There are a lot of good ones, actually. I think Switch and Dreamcast are both up there. Switch because, you know, it has a lot of ports of older games in addition to its own great exclusives like Odyssey and Breath of the Wild and all that. And Dreamcast, for as short-lived as it was, has a really solid lineup of especially first-party games like the Sonic Adventures, Space Channel 5, Crazy Taxi. But for my money, I have to say GameCube. I really, really like the lineup that the GameCube has going on. Now, don't get me wrong, like, most of the other Nintendo consoles are pretty solid, but GameCube was sort of an experimental time for a lot of these franchises. You got, like, Mario Sunshine with the Flood, you got Wind Waker doing a totally different art style, you got Pokemon Coliseum, which is like a really ambitious console Pokemon title for the time and still a very, very unique game. I love the darker tone that it kind of has, the more unique mechanics of the double battles, and then a lot of installments for series that often don't see representation on Nintendo consoles. Like you got the Star Fox games. As mixed as the reputations for those are, I haven't played a ton of them, but the multiplayer mode in Star Fox Assault is legit. You got the Metroid Prime games, you got Wave Race. If you're in Japan, you have Nintendo Puzzle Collection, which is dope as hell. You have 1080 snowboarding. Like, there's just a lot of variety, a lot of experimental stuff. Even a lot of, I forgot about Melee. Melee's so good. Even a lot of good third-party titles, I would say, like Sonic Heroes. You got the Super Monkey Ball games, obviously, the best ones, and Adventure. And I don't know. It's just a really solid lineup overall. Slightly colored by nostalgia because I didn't have a GameCube growing up, but one of my friends did, and he'd bring it over all the time, and I had a great amount of fun, especially with Melee and Sonic Adventure 2 Battle and Monkey Ball and all those kinds of games. And I've only gone back to it more and more with time. So probably that one. Up next from Nick2751, longtime fan there. What inspired you to do YouTube as a hobby? What was your main goal to accomplish there? This is actually a very, very good question that has like kind of a lot of components to it. I don't know how many of you guys know this, but I used to have a YouTube channel way back in the day called Powerstars 321 that I opened up in 2009 when I was literally like 9 years old. I used to make sprite videos on there, and over time I kept going on that channel on and off. I want to say till 2015. I'll check really quick. Basically till 2016, yeah. And I would kind of just use it to make whatever type of content I was interested in at the time. Like I said, I started off making sprite videos because I watched a lot of sprite animations on like Newgrounds and whatnot. And later on I would do album reviews, and I had this series called Tales of Gaming, which was like me basically trying to be Yuri of Wind. Ninja Star, Compass, and I joke about it a lot because the videos go into so little detail. It's basically like, hey everyone, Powerstars321 here, and today we're going to be talking about Metroid Dread. Metroid Dread was a game that was going to happen, but then it got canceled. Thank you for watching Tales of Gaming. Like, kind of aping the Yuri of Wind aesthetic without a lot of the care put into it. And then later on, I did some anime reviews that I think weren't bad. Those partially inspired because my friend Micah, who had a channel called The Robro, was doing some really good anime reviews around that time. I wanted to kind of do that as well, dip my toes back into that. And I think that's where I started to improve. Some of those videos, I'll go back and watch them, and like they're not perfect. They're not as good as the Jonii videos or anything, but I think there was something there. I enjoyed making them. I thought it was really fun to take something like that where I'm like, oh, I can watch this and then I can talk about it and I can make jokes and be funny, and it could be like a whole thing like that. And unfortunately, I didn't actually stop uploading that channel because I wanted to stop it. I had a very old computer, crash all the time. Despite all of the different editing software I would try, it just would not work. And then I was without a computer for a while, and I believe the one we got after that also wasn't excellent. And I was just busy with a lot of other life things by that point too. And so occasionally I'd have friends like Will, who's done a lot of editing for me, say like, when are you gonna bring Powerstars back? And some of my other friends, Sam and Emily, who have been on streaming with me before, I distinctly remember there's a moment we're in Emily's basement and I was playing Super Mario Brothers and they were just watching me play, and like Sam especially thought it was hilarious, and he said, you should stream, you should be a streamer. And so like all that encouragement to like do stuff again, coupled with I should also say pretty heavy depression for a while when I first started college, a lot of that also contributed, because a lot of the time I would have these awful like bus commutes where I would basically take like between an hour and like 2.5 hours to get to college and then do my stuff, and then same thing, hour to 2.5 hours to get back. And I'd get back and I'd be like so exhausted and unhappy, and I'd lay in my bed and I would play video games and I would watch YouTube videos. I would watch like My Life in Gaming and Nitro Rad and Scott the Woz and gosh, Hard for Games and Stop Skeletons from Fighting and stuff like that. And there was that little like inkling in my mind, like doing something like that where I can not only like tell people about something I'm interested in, because that's a whole other aspect I'll touch on after I finish this part, but talking about something I'm interested in and using that to like make a little video for people to enjoy, for people to make people happy, to brighten up people's days a little bit. I found that really compelling. And then there was also the angle of I had so many like obscure interests at the time. Monkey Ball was a big one I'd been getting back into because of Slope's Game Room made a video on Monkey Ball and it reminded me about the series, and I bought Super Monkey Ball 1 to play it again. And with a lot of subjects like that, I like to talk to my friends about stuff like that, but there, you know, when you're having conversations where you're really interested in one thing and the other person maybe isn't as interested, like there's only really so far you could go with it. But if I'm just like making a video about it, it's basically like I'm having a conversation with a theoretical person. I can go as in-depth as I want, and a lot of the time with the types of videos I've been watching, sometimes I'd be like, oh gosh, I really want to see this particular subject covered, or I'd see a particular subject get covered, but maybe not with the amount of depth that I wanted. And so I thought, oh, well, I have all these subjects I wish there were better videos on. Maybe I can do that. Maybe I can like fill in the holes. So if anyone is like me and wants to see a video about that, it's like, oh, there it is. As more and more time went on with it too, I'd have other goals, like with the Ms. Pac-Man thing. That was something I thought was interesting that didn't really have anyone talking about it in depth. So my whole goal there was to be like, oh, well, this is a niche. This is a hole that has gone unfilled on the YouTube platform, and I'm going to fix that. And then with stuff like the Poke shipping video or the Pokemon VHS video or stuff like that, I'd just be really nostalgic for something and want to sort of reminisce and speak about it like at length. So there are kind of a lot of goals there. A lot of the time I like to do things in exhaustive depth because that's the type of video I like to watch. A lot of the time it's, oh, this subject hasn't been covered yet, or like I remember this as a kid and doing a video on it is a good excuse for me to revisit it and talk about it in really extreme detail. I don't know, that answer was very rambly, but I would say a lot of those kinds of things are the types of things that initially inspired me and like continue to inspire me. Dapper Bluke 64 asks, I'll throw a bunch of the generic boring questions at you if that's allowed. What is your favorite video game, movie, show, color, song, and musical artist / band? Feel free to answer all, some, one, or none of these. I will try to go into as little detail as I can on all of these while still giving an explanation, just because these are a lot, but I do want to answer all of them if I can. My favorite video game is Pokemon Platinum because I grew up playing Pokemon Pearl a lot, and there was something about the Sinnoh region to me compared to the other games that made me want to explore every little part of it. I thought it was such an interesting region. I loved the Pokemon designs, and a lot of the time when I'd be like having a tough time or anything, or like I didn't want to play any other game, I'd always go back to Pokemon Pearl. I transferred my team up. I played through it again a couple years ago, and then I managed to get Platinum because my old Pokemon Pearl cart was kind of dying down because I treated it kind of poorly as a kid. and Pokemon Platinum is basically just Pokemon Pearl, but even better. So, you know, logically speaking, it became my favorite very, very quickly. I think I've done 2 complete runs of Platinum. I was thinking of doing another one before the remakes came out, but I think I'll wait. I'm very excited for those remakes, by the way. I like the chibi art style, even if not everyone does. And even if they don't add a lot, I just hope it stays faithful to the things that I liked about the original game enough. Favorite movie? I don't watch a lot of movies. I don't watch a lot of shows either, so I will maybe give a qualifier for both that I do, or did at least. I used to watch a lot of anime. I still like a decent amount of anime. So favorite movie, I'm gonna probably say a movie called 5 centimeters per second, which is a movie that was directed by the same person that did Your Name, which is actually a movie I've not seen yet. I'm saving it because everyone loves it so much. But 5 centimeters per second is basically about this dude. He's essentially like childhood best friends with this girl, and like it's about him like growing up. It's told in 3 parts, and it's just like one of the saddest movies I've ever seen, but it's very, very powerful. There's a lot of emotional weight to it, even though it's very kind of quiet and subtle, maybe a little boring for some people, but I really, really enjoyed how it was told. The animation's gorgeous, and yeah, I like the understatedness of it a lot. I think it's a really beautiful movie. And my favorite non-anime movie, I don't know. I like Clerks. I like Scott Pilgrim. Both of those are very funny. Scott Pilgrim looks really nice too. Yeah, I don't know. Favorite show? Again, I don't watch a lot of TV shows. Like I said, I used to watch a lot of anime. I have seen a lot of cartoons as well. For years, the only show that I kept up with was Regular Show. That's one of the only shows I've seen every episode of, and I really still enjoy that show. I think it's most of it's aged very well. There's kind of a dip in the middle. There's a few subplots that don't quite work out, but I feel like most of it's very, very good. The characters have a lot of weight to them, and it's really interesting to see how they grow over the course of the show, especially Rigby. I like Rigby and Eileen and Mordecai and CJ and Margaret and most of them a lot. As far as anime go, that is tough because a lot of the anime that I really, really enjoy are bad. Like, a lot of the time I say that my favorite anime is Suzuka. Suzuka is like a slice of life show with like a heavy romance drama element, and I really, really liked it the first time I saw it. I thought it was like really impactful and well done, even despite its age and sort of poor, cheap-looking animation. But upon rewatching Suzuka, I've realized that it is actually, in fact, one of the worst shows I have ever seen. Something about that melodrama just really, really appealed to me when I was 16. I still like it, though. If anything, the fact that it's such a train wreck has made me enjoy it more on some level. As far as legitimately good anime go, though, there's one called Squid Girl that I've seen numerous times. It was one of the first ones I saw when I was getting into anime. I watched it with friends a couple times, with different groups of friends, and we've all enjoyed it. The title makes it sound like it's kind of sketchy, but it's actually a very kind of wholesome, cute, funny show, and it's really fun to watch in a group setting. The English dub is wild because there are squid puns every 2 seconds. Also, Splatoon 1 had costume DLC for Squid Girl, which was really fitting, and it's not in Splatoon 2, which makes Splatoon 2 a worse video game. Future Jonii here because I forgot stuff. I also really like SpongeBob, especially the first 3 seasons, because it was my favorite show as a kid, and I watch it so much that I can quote basically all of the first 3 seasons now, and season 4 is also really interesting, and I think it's fun to analyze the decline and also see how it shifted over time. I kind of like the recent stuff. The movies are good. As far as anime goes, I also really like School Rumble. School Rumble's a slice of life comedy anime that just takes everything so far over the top that it's insanely funny. It's kind of like if Suzuka was incredibly self-aware. It's actually made by the same animation company, and they fucking knocked it out of the park. It's very, very funny. My favorite color has been green since I've been a kid. I really like a lot of like kind of aqua colors too, and like pink. But green, my thought process when I was a kid is that I really liked blue and I really liked yellow, and if you put those together it makes green, and that's an easy explanation for me. But I mean, I like Luigi, I like Kermit the Frog. I really like the sort of lime green color too. I don't know why. It sticks out. I like it. I don't know, something about those sort of strong, cool colors. I don't know, maybe it's kind of a very Y2K kind of color. Maybe that's why. My favorite song is Falling For You by Weezer because it's just like an incredibly constructed song from a technical standpoint, because it starts off already like it's pretty good already. The lyrics, it's from an album called Pinkerton, which is very personal to the point of occasionally being problematic album, but it starts off like very personal, kind of heart-wrenching, and then like it kicks into the solo and it's like, oh, that's a really interesting solo. And when it kicks into that solo again, it goes on for longer, and there's a whole key change, and there's an incredibly climactic bridge, and the ending of the song after the key change is like, it's a shift from really like resigned and like pathetic and sad to very triumphant sounding, still with like a lot of doubt to it. So I really like the emotional angle on that. It's really interesting to pick apart too. And you know, somewhat related, my favorite musical artist or band is Weezer because they've made so many bad albums, but even their bad albums are interesting, and their good albums are just immaculately constructed, beautiful works. The lyrics can be clumsy at the best of times, but Rivers Cuomo, the primary songwriter, is really a genius when it comes to melody, and he has a way of taking what seem like fairly mundane lyrics and making them hit fairly close to home. And another thing that I really like about them is they never stop experimenting, even when they maybe should. They just put out an album this year called OK Human, where they don't use electric guitars and instead they have a full orchestra, and it's one of their best albums. So I mean, there you go. Also, as I kind of touched on with Falling For You, a lot of Weezer songs are really well constructed. It's fun to break them down and see how they play with dynamics and like a really strong emotional through line building to like a really good climax. There's just a lot of technical stuff there that as a songwriter I think is interesting to pick apart. I also really like The Strokes, Arctic Monkeys, Beatles, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Jeff Rosenstock, Pup, No Doubt, The Regrets, Paramore, a bunch of other bands. There's a lot. There's quite a lot. The Bright Cube asks, would you be interested in Puyo Pop Fever? It's an early 2000s Sega game for the GameCube with vibrant colors and a really cool style. Puyo Pop Fever has actually been on my video ideas list for quite a while. Part of what's interesting about it to me is that there's actually, in Japan, there was a Dreamcast version, which I think is the last first-party Dreamcast game. It came out in like 2004 or something. No, it was 2004, I was right. And I think there's a lot of really interesting stuff to that, like the fact that the Dreamcast version gives you like a unique Dreamcast system menu. Puyo Pop Fever was the first, I suppose the second Puyo game to be localized with the original Puyo Puyo branding. Has like a full story mode, voice acting, everything. It's the kind of the start of a new era in that franchise because they introduced a new protagonist. The art styles are wonderful. I'm strongly interested in Puyo Pop Fever, although I don't know if I'll cover it for quite a while. I remember the last time I looked at it, it was a little bit pricey on GameCube. Don't know if it still is. I might look into it. Everything's pricey now. But yeah, it's maintaining a solid spot on my video ideas list. And if you're interested in Puyo Pop Fever, stick around because the video I'm putting out in late June, early July, while it is not about Puyo Pop Fever, if you're interested in Puyo Pop Fever, I think you'll like it. I think you'll get a lot of mileage out of that one. Ninja Star Compass, hello friend, asks, do you have any plans to revive the Powerstars channel in the future, even if it's just for like shit posts or something? I've kind of thought about it because me and my friend Ethan used to post our E3 reactions there every year, even after the channel kind of fizzled out. So I initially thought about using it for that. I even think I might still do that this year because I might post E3 reaction highlights to the Jonii channel and then the full version to the Powerstars channel. Although I don't know. I tried a reaction video a little while ago. The response to it seemed to go well. I'm a little concerned for my sweet analytics, but I don't know how it affects them. We'll see. As far as the Powerstars channel goes, though, that I'm fine with using as a dumping ground for various things. Although I made another channel, Jonii's Video Landfill, for the purpose of most dumping ground stuff. So I don't know. I could see using it for something. I don't know what exactly, though. I'm not opposed to it. I just don't know what to put there. John the Trash asks, are there any videos you were considering / early in producing but abandoned for whatever reason? Well, he had two questions, but that's his first question, so I'll answer that one first. Yeah, so off the top of my head, I can think of two examples, and after that, I'll check my drive in case there's others I forgot about. But the first one was really early on in the channel, I think right after the Kirby video, I was going to do a 3-part series on the Panel to Pawn games, and I finished the script for the first one, and I started the script for the second one, but I just kept putting it off because I felt like for a while I didn't really have anything to say that a lot of retrospectives didn't, unless I went into like immense detail in every game, which I wasn't especially eager to do because there's like the Game Boy ports, and then there's so many like odds and ends with that series that I just kept putting it off, and I was kind of under the impression it wouldn't happen for a while. I do think I've been working to revive that in some form though, so we'll see what happens with that. I think at the very least I can make one Panel to Pawn video because I have some interesting tidbits to share regarding at least one title in that franchise, and the script for the first one's already done, so I might as well, you know, do that too. The other one that I can think of off the top of my head is I wanted to make a video where I talked about the characters from the Dance Dance Revolution games, because that's an aspect of those that no one ever talks about. I was playing, I think, Konamix on the PS1, and I noticed some of the robot characters, and I was like, these guys look cool. I wonder if they have backstory or anything. And that one, I could maybe see reviving it, but it was difficult because already information on those characters is pretty like scattered and sparse throughout the internet. And what really did it in is that on the wikis that have any type of information, it's not sourced from anywhere. It doesn't say like, oh, we learned this about this character in this game, or like we learned this about this character in this game. And I'm not playing through like the multitude, the flood of DDR titles to do this with every character, or like sneak through all the manuals and like it sounds like a big headache. And so like I feel like that was something where I like to devote a lot of time to my videos, but that was a step too far even for me. I don't want to have to look for pieces of information and then go like just digging for a source on every little tiny snippet to make sure I don't say anything wrong. It was just too much of a burden to bear. With that said, let me check my Google Drive. Let's see if there's any others in the wacky world of John. Usually when I'm early in producing a video, I have at least some type of confidence that it'll be something I can do. As far as my video ideas document though, I just slap everything on there. There's probably a lot of stuff on there that I could never make a video on, but it interested me at one point, so it's there. There's a couple things in here that I'm unsure if I'll ever talk about, that I have currently little interest in. So I'll espouse a few of those. One is a video where we talk about, like, just kind of vaguely and compile as many as we can a list of games with playable credit sequences, like Super Smash Bros. Melee and Monkey Ball had. Will and I were gonna write that video together, but I think a combination of me working on a bunch of other videos and Will like often being busy means we have not worked on that beyond the outline. And quite honestly, a lot of those games besides Melee and Monkey Ball are not necessarily games I have a ton of interest in, so I don't want to kind of phone it in. Like if we did that video, I think it's a decent idea, but I want to really commit to it and do a good job, so I don't know with that one. There's one I might still do if I can find a good angle for it. Initially I proposed doing it as part of a queer studies course I took in college, where I talk about Birdo, because Birdo, if you're not aware, has been strongly implied to be a trans woman numerous times, or outright stated in rather disrespectful ways. And part of me wanted to make a video like saying, hey, this is how it's kind of been handled disrespectfully. Here are maybe some good ways to like handle it better if they want to acknowledge it in the future. But honestly, it's kind of hard because I feel like a lot of that video is just getting around like, oh well, how would be a good way to do this, like to have representation for a trans character in like a children's video game, which is something that like I think should be a thing, like that would be a good thing, but it's also something that I feel like Nintendo is not going to do, and we have not a ton of precedent for it to my knowledge. I don't think there's a lot of really big popular children's media that's not like explicitly focused on queer issues that has like just a trans character chilling, vibing in there. And I mean also like I am not an expert on media representation by any means, so I don't entirely know what a good way to handle that would be. And if we remove that angle from the video, I feel like this is a subject that's that's been covered a lot of times, and I don't want to feel like I'm just rehashing somebody else's video or reading off a wiki page or anything. One of the things that keeps me invested in the idea is most videos about Birdo that actually go into a decent amount of depth are rather disrespectful about it. There's a lot of ones that are like good and decent and respectful that go into less depth, but you know, there might be potential in doing a best of both worlds thing there. I don't know. Just for accessibility purposes. But I feel like the fact is so well known that it's like the new Super Mario Bros. 2 is actually Doki Doki Panic of like YouTube video topics. I don't want to do something that's been done too many times. So I don't know. Maybe if I find a good angle for it. There's another similar video that I guess is a topic that has been talked about before that I'm making, but that's one that I have like a more kind of strong emotional attachment to. So I'm more invested. I have more to say about that one. And yeah, I'm seeing two other outlines at the bottom too. One was a video my friend Sam, I don't know if he proposed it to me or if he said something interesting and it made me want to do it. And then there's one that's, I'll just say it was Tetris 2. I don't know if I'll make a video on Tetris 2. I don't know what I would say about Tetris 2. It's really interesting that there's a game called Tetris 2 that does not play like Tetris, but I'd want to be sure there's something interesting I can bring to that conversation besides, whoa, this game has bombs in it. Oh my gosh. You know, that was a more long-winded answer than I was expecting. Oh, and John the Trash's other question is, why do you create content based on the niche period in gaming that you operate in? And I'm assuming that refers to the fact that a lot of my content is kind of fixated in late 90s, early 2000s stuff. And frankly, I don't know, it just kind of happens. Like, I definitely have a really, aesthetically, I have a strong attachment in going to that period. And a lot of my videos are kind of focused on nostalgia, and I grew up in the 2000s, so naturally a lot of that stuff is nostalgic to me. But also, like, Will and I have had many long conversations about this, but like the early 2000s especially is just a really interesting time for a lot of reasons. I have a really strong attachment to the aesthetic of that era. Technology was kind of advancing at a rapid pace. Nintendo was releasing a lot of their most interesting games during that time. A lot of third parties as well. Capcom had like Beautiful Joe and whatnot. Sega had just died and was making games for GameCube and Xbox. There's just a lot of very interesting ground to cover in that period. It feels like it was a very experimental, productive period in gaming. And I'm interested in covering other media from that era too, like anime and cartoons and internet stuff. I think there's a lot of potential there. There's a lot of stuff in that era that I feel like hasn't been fully talked about just because, you know, nostalgia for the 80s and the early 90s. It had its peak. There's still definitely a lot of it, but, you know, there was a distinct period where everyone was talking about, like, 80s and 90s stuff, and I feel like late 90s, early 2000s is only now coming into that sort of area. So there's a lot of uncovered ground, and a lot of the subjects I like to cover are either so obscure or have the potential for so much depth that, like, very easily I could pick something that other people might just not cover or might not cover in the way that I would do it. So I don't know. That's a lot of what it is for me, honestly. Funny Planet 01 or Neural Nate Works. Hi Nate asks, what games/topics do you want to do a video on in the future? Oh, you're trying to spoil my plans. Oh no. You're coming into my house, you're waltzing all over my things, and you're spoiling my YouTube video plans. I like to keep a lot of my YouTube video ideas secret, but I'll tell you a couple things that maybe won't come as much of a surprise. I want to cover the other Monkey Ball games. I don't know how fast I'll do that. It's been pretty slow so far. If I'm being completely honest, it's because I don't like playing Monkey Ball Adventure that much, but I have to finish it before I do a video on it. Monkey Ball Deluxe is coming pretty okay though. I hope to finish that this year or earlier next year, if at all possible. I also do want to make videos on the other Wave Race games, Wave Race 64 and Blue Storm. Part of the reason I did the Game Boy game is because I want to do Blue Storm, but I figured the franchise is so short that I could do all three, especially because nobody's talked about the Game Boy one, and I found that really interesting. And Wave Race 64, because it's such a popular game, actually has like a pretty good amount of development info to my knowledge, so I feel like I could do a kind of documentary style video on that as well. Space Channel 5 Part 2 I have no immediate plans for, but I'm sure I'll get to it eventually for the sake of completeness. Don't know if I'll get to that VR game solely because I just don't have a PS4 or really a VR playing space. Maybe in a couple of years. Game Boy Advance Space Channel 5 port also I'm kind of interested in doing a video on. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I'm willing to give away the game on. A lot of these I don't necessarily want to say either because I'm working on them right now and I don't want to like spoil the next couple of videos, or they're like so far far out that I don't want to build expectation for something that's not going to come out for a while. I will say I want to experiment more with different kind of formats and different kinds of topics. There's a lot of old internet videos that I think would make for very fun videos, give me a good excuse to revisit from Newgrounds and from YouTube. There's a couple cartoons, mostly from that kind of early 2000s period, that I want to talk about because they haven't kind of gotten a fair shake in the YouTube reviewer game. There's at least one anime I want to do a really in-depth video on from that period too, possibly two. Suzuka is my biggest burden. I have not started making a video on Suzuka, but I know that I will one day because it's one of the videos that I wanted to make when I started doing YouTube again, and I have a lot to say about that anime even if no one listens. And then as far as other stuff goes, I kind of want to do different types of videos about video games too, where instead of just like, here's a retrospective documentary where I tell you literally everything about this thing, kind of hyper fixating on a specific aspect, doing a little analysis, a la my friend the Manic Pineapple, who you should subscribe to. There's two that I'm working on right now that are sort of character and thematic analysis, which are kind of exciting to me. Speaking of the Manic Pineapple, I have to edit down the streams we did where I explain Sonic lore in immense detail to him because those were very funny. I'm working on the first one. I need to record more gameplay footage is what I have to do. Maybe I'll stream Sonic 2, Sonic 3, get some of those. Maybe a little more informal content too. I liked that reaction video I just did. I thought was fun, but you know, I know that's not the main thing that people come to my channel to see though, so I don't want to overdo it. Nate also asks, top 4 Weezer albums. Okay, this is a tough one here because I think, oh goodness gracious, the top 3 are easy. It's just the order I'm not consistent with. And then the fourth one, I'm kind of at a crossroads at the moment, so maybe I'll do 5. My favorite one is definitely Pinkerton, straight up. There's arguments to be made that a lot of it has aged somewhat badly, but I don't know. I think it works in the context of the album, because the album is very much just a dude basically venting at you about all his own self-hatred and all the problems in his life, and he says some kind of shitty things because it's completely unfiltered. But that album was really, really important to me in high school, and even still, it's very cathartic to me to throw it on whenever I'm upset, whenever I just am really angry and need some music to exemplify that. Pinkerton I always come back to, not to mention that a lot of the songs are really immaculately constructed, very, very interesting. It's very heavy. It packs a lot of a punch. I think it's a really kind of interesting album. It helps that he was very influenced by classical music around that time. Second one, hot take. Most people say Blue. I could honestly put either White or Blue here. I'll say White first because I think White has more personal relevance to me because the White album completely changed the way I write. Basically, the White Album came out in 2016. It was the one after their kind of big comeback album, and it was produced by Jake Sinclair, who was a huge Weezer fan. And this dude somehow brought out like all of their strengths without completely like relying upon the classic sound. I think they're kind of at their peak structurally. Like a lot of the structures on that album, very much like I described with Falling For You, it's just such an emotional build, and it helps that the lyrics on that album are incredibly interesting. Rivers was doing like a spreadsheet method where he'd write stream of consciousness and he'd like put lines that he enjoyed in spreadsheets, and he'd just pick lines from the spreadsheets depending on syllable count, and then Jake would say, no, like this sounds bad, replace this. And a lot of the times the lyrics are more abstract, but he's just weaving these really interesting narratives with a lot of really cool imagery, and a lot of them, depending on how you interpret them, still hit really, really hard. And arrangement wise, like the inclusion of a lot more like synth and piano with the usual kind of Weezer sound, and like a lot of falsetto, and the band having fun doing harmonies and whatnot. It's just a really good album, both as a feel-good album and as kind of an emotional thing to analyze further. And then after that, Blue. Blue is a classic. You've probably heard songs from Blue, even if you're not a Weezer fan. Say It Ain't So, Buddy Holly, Undone. Blue is the type of album where it sounds like it's really, really simple, but if you pick it apart, like, again, there's a lot to analyze there. I think it has maybe the best flow of any album I've ever heard. It's really immaculately structured. There's a lightness to it. There's like like a sort of like nerdy appeal, like, oh, like in the garage, haha, he likes X-Men and Kiss. But there's like a really strong emotional core to it still. And a lot of the builds on there, we Say It Ain't So and Only in Dreams in particular, have insanely emotional solos. Like, it can be really difficult to communicate emotion solely through playing a guitar solo. Obviously, you don't have words to rely on. But if you do it right, it's a thing of beauty. And those two songs do it incredibly, incredibly well. And number 4, I'm at a crossroads because they just put out OK Human, which is really, really good. Probably, if I'm thinking more objectively, it is their 4th best album. But I'm really, really strongly attached to the Green album. The Green album is interesting because it's an incredibly safe album. It's very kind of happy sounding. Every song kind of has the same sort of vibe. Some of them even blend together on the second half. But I think it really puts his sort of melodic talents on full display. And I think for that reason, it's always appealed to me. Not to mention that while every song's really happy, there's sort of an underlying sadness to it that I really like. You can hear that he wasn't necessarily in the best of places when writing it, but he was trying to put on a good sort of face. And I don't know, there's something to that. I like its shortness and accessibility. Yeah, I don't know. OK Human, I'll describe briefly because I've been going a while, but it has a lot of the same strengths as White, except the arrangements are interesting in a completely different way. The lyrics are a little bit more straightforward, but they still have this sort of eccentricity to them. They feel very much like you couldn't mistake them for anyone else writing them. Like, Grapes of Wrath is a song about this dude just rocking out listening to audiobooks, and like, that's Rivers, that's no one else. No one else on this planet. Dead Roses is probably my favorite song from that. It's got the more flowery, complex imagery, but again with a really strong emotional core. It has sort of an Elliott Smith-esque softness to it, I think. Wow, I probably went way too hard on that Weezer question for a channel that has nothing to do with Weezer, but that's okay. And my buddy, the Manic Pineapple, asks, who's your favorite Qatherine and why? And he is referring to the video game Qatherine, and more specifically Qatherine Full Body, because I saw he put the Q in there, and I'll try to answer this without spoiling too much. I really like Q Qatherine, Rin, because I feel like K Qatherine, who is your girlfriend at the beginning of the game, has sort of this bossy, like domineering attitude. She's not very compassionate towards you. She's very, very pushy. She lies about something pretty major, and there seems to be like a disapproval, like you're not good enough for her, and I don't like that. She seems like the type of person that would maybe be decent to be friends with, but like, you know, she's exhausting. Her passive aggression is not a good look. See, Qatherine, I actually, when I think about it more, I do actually like, because most of my qualms with her appearances in the game are not her fault. It's just because every cutscene she's in is the most awkward thing imaginable, because the tension is deliberately built as high as can be. But she seems like a pleasant, like, person to be around. But Rin is next level, because Rin, aside from just being the most like polite and chill out of all of them, like, just seems like a pleasant person to hang out with. The sort of themes of her path of the game, which she reiterates multiple times, of not bowing to societal expectation, of doing what makes you happy, of encouraging people not to sort of fall in line, to do things that are actually self-fulfilling to them. Having that genre of positivity really, really appealed to me when I played the game. It was, I was in kind of a rough spot myself, so like hearing that type of thing, it was good vibes all around. I also like her design a lot more. I don't know. It's nice. Rin looks nice. The twist with Rin is also good because it reinforces those themes even further. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go play Qatherine Full Body. Do it. It's good. It looks like it's gonna be bad, and there are some parts that are actually bad, but like for the most part, you know, honestly, if you take the Rin path, you go all the way, you get the true Rin ending. That's some good shit right there. That's some good shit. All right, well, those are all the Twitter questions, so let me check my hashtag YouTube community trademark tab. First one of these is from Noel Smith. How you doing, man? It's been a while. And he asks, what is the meaning of life? The answer to that is 42. Josh Cole has a couple questions. First one is, how far did you get in every Monkey Ball you've played? Monkey Ball 1, I got pretty far into Expert. I didn't finish Expert, but I got pretty far, I think. I think in the 20s, probably. Super Monkey Ball 2, I did beat the story mode. It was after I was done with the script, but before the video went live. I think before the video went live, I was like really deep into it. I was like world 8 or 9 or something. But yes, I did finish Monkey Ball 2. Monkey Ball Jr., I actually admittedly did not get very far in, which is my bad. I feel like I didn't quite do that game justice. I did not even beat the advanced mode, although I did try all 3 difficulty levels. I don't think I even got that far in advanced or expert. Shame. Monkey Ball Adventure, I'm trying to remember where I am. I think I got through the first kingdom? Let me look this up. Monkey Ball Deluxe, by the way, is simply a compilation of 1 and 2, though admittedly I have not beaten it yet. I believe I'm a couple worlds into that. I think like 5-ish? I did beginner, and I don't know if I beat the advanced challenge mode. But I tried it. I did try it. Yeah, so in Monkey Ball Adventure, I got through Jungle Island, and I've done a decent amount of stuff in Zootopia, which is the name of one of the areas in that game. I've tried doing stuff in Moonhaven, but I have a hard time with that. But yeah, I haven't really done much more than that. So that I've played like, maybe like 20-30% of the game. Definitely not half yet, because I don't think I've cleared anything other than the first world of the 5, but you know, I've played a decent amount. Monkey Ball Banana Blitz, the original one, I played briefly at a friend's house, got upset, and stopped. Monkey Ball Step and Roll, I believe I played through all of World 1 with the balance board, and I tried some of World 2. Monkey Ball 3D, I think I played through the first 3 or 4 worlds of it, something like that. I played through a couple worlds in Monkey Ball 3D. Monkey Ball Banana Splits, I have not played at all because I do not have a PlayStation Vita. And Monkey Ball Banana Blitz HD, I beat? I got the credits to roll, but there was more content. I think maybe what happens in that game is you beat 8 worlds and then the credits roll and then they give you a couple extra worlds. I got the credits to roll. That definitely happened. So I played most of that. I'm probably on the world 9 or 10, so I haven't played all the extra worlds, but I've unlocked the secret character and I've got the credits to roll, so I think that counts for something. I admittedly did not get to the end of the Monkey Ball mini flash game, I'm sorry. Second question from Josh Cole is, favorite cartoon block from the 90s, 2000s? Jetix, Magoozy, Toonami, WB Kids, you seem like you'd have one. I did not watch a ton of these extensively. I think Kids WB was a little bit before my time, although there was a really great retrospective on it that I liked a lot, because I watched Pokemon tapes all the time, and there's some Pokemon tapes that are like, oh, Kids WB, look at this. Don't know if I ever saw Toonami when it was on. I feel like I saw Jetix a couple times. I used to watch the, God, what was it? The 4Kids block. Was it Fox 4Kids or something? And then they had Toonzai after that, which I'd watch sometimes. I'd try to wake up early in the morning so I could watch Yu-Gi-Oh! And Sonic X were the 2 that I liked. I'd watch Dinosaur King too. I didn't give a shit about Dinosaur King. I just liked the voice actors from Pokemon were in it. My favorite is probably Magoozy, though. Not because I watched it extensively, but because the promos stuck out greatly in my mind, and because it had Pokemon and Pokemon Chronicles at the time when I was first getting into Pokemon, and that was huge, and it made me really love Pokemon Chronicles especially. There's a deep pocket of my brain that's stuck in like 2005 watching those promos with the freaky girl and her freaky monster friends and the freaky underwater submarine, watching Pokemon Chronicles, The Legend of Thunder. That's just like a whole vibe. That type of vibe is like, if anyone watching my channel gets like a small fraction of that vibe, I've done something incredibly right. That's a huge vibe right there. I think branding wise, that block really had it nailed down. I like the Toonami aesthetic too, but I'm not as nostalgic for it, I must say. Okay, number 3 from Josh. Game you haven't played yet that you want to play the most? That's a tough one. I've dipped my toes in most games that I want to play. The new Sonic game. I guess the Sega Saturn version of Fighting Vipers is one, because I really like Fighting Vipers on the Xbox 360 Live Arcade, but the Saturn version, at least the Japanese Saturn version, has Pepsi Man. And any game with Pepsi Man is a game I need to play, which I guess means that I need to add the game at Pepsi Man to that list as well. Oh, Fire Emblem Path of Radiance is another one. I think I've given up on on ever obtaining a physical copy of that, though, so maybe I'll play it through other means. I've played Pokemon Coliseum, but I keep not finishing it, and I want to finish it, but I keep getting distracted, so that doesn't really count, but that too. The original Pokemon Ranger, maybe, too? I think of those, Fire Emblem is probably the big one. Yeah, Saturn version of Fighting Vipers is pretty high up there, too, but, you know. Favorite animated movie? Why? I already answered this technically. That's 5 centimeters per second. Although, if we're talking other animated movies, I suppose I'll list some honorable mentions. The third Pokemon movie is really, really, really good. Like, most Pokemon movies are terrible, terrible films, but that one's, even like the good ones, it's like, oh, this is good as a Pokemon movie, but that one's like a legitimately really good movie. I want to watch it in Japanese at some point, because I want to see if they changed anything. The first 2 SpongeBob movies are really good, too. I have not seen Sponge on the Run. I want to. I will someday. And yeah, I mean, I guess probably those, unless I'm forgetting something. Oh, most of the Fairly Odd Parents, TV movies too. I remember really liking Channel Chasers and Fairy Idol, especially, but all of them were good. Oh no, School's Out too. School's Out's a really good one. I haven't seen most of those in years though, so I cannot speak for if they're still good. Oh, Jimmy Timmy Power Out too. We're stretching the definition of animated movie. Oh, if we're talking anime, I also really like The Girl Who Leapt Through Time and Summer Wars. Fuck. If I had to pick one that's not 5 centimeters per second, I would probably pick either the third Pokemon movie or the first SpongeBob movie, maybe. Something like that. Oh, that was the last question from Josh. Thank you, Josh. I actually liked all of those questions. McTeodore, that bastard, asks, why do they call it oven when you in the cold food out hot eat the food? I'm sorry. Why do they call it oven when you in the cold food out what the fuck? Why do they call it oven when you in the cold food out hot eat the food? The world may never know. My friend Greg Cubed has a 2-part question. Which video are you least proud of and why? Not to throw a negative question at you, I just always think it's an interesting one compared to favorite. Actually, tell me both. It's my Q&A now, damn it, and I call the shots. That's tough to narrow down to just one for both of those, but I'll try. As for my least favorite, I think it would probably have to be either Onanatsu or the Nintendo commercials video. Neither one I think is bad necessarily. I think both of them are fine, but there's things that I dislike about both of them. They're both videos I probably wouldn't make today because the Onanatsu video is very much like, I like that I'm trying to talk about the themes in it, but I feel like it falls a little short, and I feel like a lot of especially the humor in there, it's a lot more like a Powerstars video than a Jonii video, if that makes sense. Especially since I don't talk much at all about the history of Onanatsu. I feel like I tried to research it for like half a second and then I just gave up. I don't think it's bad though. I think some of the jokes are fine. I just feel like it's not the type of video I'd like to make. The last time I watched it, I cringed pretty hard at. I winced pretty hard at a lot of the attempts at humor there, especially because a lot of the attempts at humor are like, oh, anime tropes, haha, mean girl syndrome, haha, tsundere, and I'm like, I'd like to critique a piece of media while avoiding those, maybe a little bit. Although I guess if the shows are gonna have the character archetypes, you gotta point them out. The Nintendo commercials video, I don't necessarily think the idea of it was bad, but I feel like the editing is some of the worst I've ever done. There were a lot of just weird cuts and mistakes and visual glitches in that video that I couldn't seem to fix, and even then I was trying to kind of rush it a bit because I was like, oh, I want to get a video out for this month. And that was my low effort idea. Admittedly, like, I liked the idea. A lot of those commercials I legitimately wanted to talk about since I didn't see anyone talking about them, like the Mario airplane one. But it does feel to an extent like it didn't turn out quite the way I wanted it to. I don't know. It's just a very messy video. And part of the reason I'm usually proud of my channel is because I try to maintain a certain level of polish. Every video's got its little inconsistencies slipping by if you look hard enough, but that one's like particularly bad. As far as my favorite goes, that's hard because there's a lot that I really, really like, actually. I'm generally pretty proud of my output. Oh, it's hard to even narrow it to 3 because there's like 4 that I really particularly like. I'll save maybe my favorite for last and just briefly talk about the other ones. The Mario War video I really, really liked because it was just a really interesting subject that clearly a lot of people cared about, but no one had ever tried to document before, seemingly. So I was really happy to provide a decent history of that. also, I think, is one of my videos that does the best as like a time capsule. I feel like I captured the vibe of that era pretty decently with all the forum talk and the 8-bit skater boy and the commercials and whatnot. It was really fun to kind of go back to something from that time period. The Yoshi Story video is baller as fuck because that was a game I had a ton of nostalgia for. And so, like, the script, I think, was written at a point where I was, like, kind of balancing my nostalgia with humor. And I think the humor in that video is some of the best I've ever done, which is, of course, helped by the immaculate editing that Will did for that video. I think that might be my most polished video in terms of editing, because Will fucking nailed it. Especially that opening joke with the Yoshi's Island cartridges is like one of the funniest bits in any of my videos, and that was completely Will's idea. My other favorite joke in that video that I always come back to is the fucking, we're venturing into the place where only true gamers go. That's right, we're gonna be talking about the speed running community. And Will just puts up a picture of like Optimus Prime. That's definitely my funniest video, I think. The Ms. Pac-Man video was another story that I felt needed to be told, and it captured a much wider audience than I expected, and I was really happy it was a video like that ended up getting it, because I wasn't sure how it would go down. I felt like that was the first video I did that was a little less reliant on humor. I tried to make it a lot more information-oriented. But I think my favorite video overall is the Poke Shipping video, because it combines a lot of the things that I like about those other videos. Like, the subject is something I was incredibly interested in as a kid, and I really, even like as in-depth as I went, there are a couple things I didn't talk about in that video that in retrospect I'm like, oh, I could have talked about that. Like, I didn't talk about Misty's like return appearances in the anime in Hoenn and in Alola. Part of the reason I didn't talk about Misty and Alola is because I'm saving those episodes to watch, because literally I waited like 10 plus years for Misty to be in the anime again, so I don't want to waste my chance to see something like that. I'm saving it for a rainy day. But no, like, even the stuff I talked about, it was just like an amalgamation of a bunch of really nostalgic things. I really pushed the humor in that one, I felt like, as far as it could go. The fan fiction segment is one of my favorite things that I've ever done, because it was just, it was the first time I'd really been like, okay, I'm gonna get like a bunch of people involved. I think the only video before that, I guess there are a couple videos where I had other people involved for a segment. I had Ninja Star Compass do a segment for Monkey Ball Jr. I had my friends Will, Sam, and Aiden do a little clip in Monkey Ball Jr. as well. So I guess Monkey Ball Jr. is the true start of the crossover. But the whole like scripted like fanfic segment with the voice acting, it turned out so funny. Those voice actors are super talented, and a lot of their improv still kill me to this day. I think Marcus, Cool Discs 101, especially, just really got me with a lot of the line delivery. Like, there's the part where he gets shocked, and he goes, and he makes like the most intense shock sound, and then in his actual speaking voice, he's just like, God, please kill me. I think, unfortunately, it was the fanfic I had to cut from the video, but there's also the one where Ash gets, like, happily married to Misty, and then, like, Serena shows up at their door, like, years later, and she's like, Ash, it's me, Serena, and there's just, like, a beat, and then in, like, the most intense voice possible, Marcus's Ash just goes, shit! That one also gets me every single time. There's a bunch of other parts, too, like me getting banned from the Poke Shipping subreddit after it got taken over by Serena shippers. Dude, there's so much. The Pokemon anime is really a goldmine for nostalgia for me, and I felt like the Poke Shipping video combined that with humor. I made a lot of jokes at their expense, but there's sort of an admiration for the fan community too in that video. I feel like a lot of my biggest strengths in my video making came through in that video together, the best that they ever have. So I was really happy with that one. So yeah, short answer is probably that Poke Shipping is my favorite video on the channel, and the Nintendo commercials video is my least favorite video on the channel. As far as main videos go, if we want to talk informal videos, God, the balloon fight video is the best thing I've ever made, the eBay video. The A-Kid asks, your favorite Mario Kart, and if so, are you gonna make a Monkey Ball-like video on it? My favorite Mario Kart game, I really like most of them. DS and 7 in particular, I have a lot of memories for. Ooh, 64 too. Oh, it's hard. There's so many good ones. Probably my favorite is Double Dash. That was another one that I'd have a friend who would bring that over a lot with his GameCube, in addition to Monkey Ball and Sonic Adventure 2. And just the double kart mechanic, the whole aesthetic of the game, just everything. I love everything about that game. Baby Park, to this day, is one of the funniest courses. Will I make a Monkey Ball-like video on it? Maybe. Probably not anytime soon, but I could definitely see kind of just delving into it. Probably a lot more like development info if I can find it. I feel like there could be an interesting story to tell there. But yeah, short answer, Mario Kart Double Dash, and that's a maybe. I might make a video on some other Mario Kart games at another point too, if I can figure stuff out with them. I'm gonna keep vague posting with that. You can speculate if you want. Open Your Bank says lit. That's not a question. The Bright Cube says, do you listen to Boy in Blue? Basically, are you paints nails? I don't know what any of that means. I tried searching up Boy in Blue on Spotify, and there is an artist, but he only has like 1,000 monthly listeners, and all of his music is in Spanish, so I don't know if you're talking about that. There was one song that came up, though, that I liked. It was by a band called The Jars. Didn't have that many listens, but I thought it was good. There's also a song called Boy in Blue by an artist called Younger One that I just listened to. Well, he spells his name with X's. I don't. Maybe that's what it says. But I'm listening to it. It's not like the type of thing I usually listen to, but the chord progression's really nice. The beat's actually pretty solid. I don't know. I could see myself listening to that again. That's pretty good. Am I paints nails? I have not painted my nails that I'm aware of, but I would... Oh no, I painted my nails once when I tried to dress like a goth for the first day of school. It's a long story. I would in the future. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. Somehow I feel like when you asked if I was paints nails, that was implying something other than if I actually do simply paint my nails, but I could be wrong. And one question came in between the time I recorded this and the time I finished editing it. And that question is from Soshi the Yoshi, who is another longtime subscriber. Hello, friend. And Soshi asks, are you still considered a fake gamer? Oh, absolutely. Once a fake gamer, always a fake gamer, I say. I certainly haven't done anything to get more real in the intervening time since I initially made that statement. So you don't have to worry that I'm really a gamer, or you can worry that I've continued with gaming videos this long, even though I'm not a real gamer. Thank you for the question. And finally, Full Metal Pianist asks, what will happen if you answer my question? Oh, that's simple. The video will end.